Hi everyone, this is Vivan. You're watching Humans of DeFi. This is the first podcast on this YouTube channel, and I'm really excited to announce a first guest on this podcast, Mr. Shivam. Shivam has been a really good friend of mine. He's a content creator, crypto investor, marketer, and whatnot. So, welcome Shivam on this first podcast of Humans of DeFi.
Thanks a lot, Vivan, for having me. It's a pleasure, especially with this being the first episode. Really happy to be here.
Amazing. I'm pretty sure I've given a very short introduction about yourself, but there's more to you. You've been a marketer and whatnot, right? So would love if you could give a brief introduction about you and your background in crypto investing, trading, and content creation so far.
Yeah, sure, of course. So I've been in marketing actually since 2015. So social media, online marketing space, kind of was growing Instagram accounts really early on, and I also ran my marketing agency. While doing that, I got to know about Bitcoin from one of my family members who had gotten into Bitcoin mining. And this is 2017. As with a lot of people, actually, because I didn't know enough, I was like, dude, what are you guys doing? This is a scam, probably a scam. Like इधर उधर से दो तीन बार कहीं से सुना था, तो I was like, oh fine, right? Just sell everything and get out. And of course, luckily they didn't do that. Luckily they kept pushing on the whole narrative on ki thoda dhyan rakh, have a look, what's going on, check out Bitcoin, check out what's a wallet. And I started kind of looking into what the whole thing is, but I actually went all in into crypto in 2020. So it did take me quite a lot of time to actually get in, to understand what everything was. And by the way, that's also when I had kind of started making money. So I had some money to get into crypto as well, because before that I really did not have a lot of money to actually get into crypto. And that's when I was already working with multiple Web2 clients, working on their marketing strategies, online marketing, their social media efforts. And kind of I just took whatever I was doing for them and kind of started my own YouTube channel, which I then later in 2021 pivoted into crypto, because that's something that a lot of people wanted to hear about. And because I could look into the tech side of things, I got a lot of comments around like, this is something new, I should push it, pursue it. And that's when I kind of got all into the crypto side of things. And I also started working in the field, which is something that I've kind of believed since day one. In crypto, the max success that someone can have is when you actually work in the field, financially, as well as I think from a heart side of things. It's much more fulfilling if you're also working in crypto. So apart from content creation, I've been involved in the kind of marketing side of Web3 pretty actively. And these days, I'm kind of just taking on freelance clients, working on their content. Like one of the notable people I'm working with or companies is Crypto Jobs List, pretty old portal right now. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
That's amazing. Would love to understand. Like you've been in the space since 2017, somewhat, right? So, what are the some significant changes that you might have observed in the DeFi landscape over the years? Like you have seen, your meme coins pop up. You've seen a new kind of technology pop up. So, how has that transition been, and what are the changes that you've faced so far?
Yeah, I think we could potentially divide it into two parts. One is logon ka perception, and second one is how things are being built in the DeFi space. Early on, like everything was like it. It felt like a scam because it looked like a scam. It like the overall experience was pretty shitty, and there was not a lot to do quite early on. So I think that difference, or rather that progress into trying to make things easier for people to understand, trying to do things that make somebody else's life easier in the DeFi ecosystem. I think that's a big change that we've seen, not even in the last, I won't even say 4 years, I'll say just like last couple of years even. um, and I think that's a big plus for people, and rather people's perception as well, right? Because somebody will get into DeFi if they feel it's easy to get into, if they feel there's a relatively lower amount of risk, and they're going to feel that only and only when they have like enough education, and they see things as they are, transparently, but kind of arranged really well. So here I'm talking about the UI UX, like the overall ecosystem around DeFi, which is something that I think slowly is now starting to progress from only for degens to for normal
Yeah,
people mode. And that's
yeah,
something that I'm really really bullish about within the DeFi ecosystem as well. And that's also something I think that will probably end up getting a lot of institutional interest in with time. uh, and when I say institutional interest, not investor interest, I mean like institutional traders who would really want to get into DeFi space.
got it. I mean, definitely you might have seen a lot of Ponzinomics, tokenomics, which have like a lot of Ponzi's, somewhere embedded in there. And right now we can see things get shifting into a lot of real yield kind of projects. That's something that I am really interested in. And following up the question, that UI UX has been a major factor which has been improved since 2020. Now that we are like 3 years down the line, a lot of protocols, a lot of projects have been building really intuitive UI.
Yeah.
So would like to ask you, like, what are your favorite DeFi platforms or protocols, and if it's possible for you to share some unique features of it.
Yeah, of course. I think, and this is something that I've mentioned pehle bhi, and nothing to do with me being on dYdX ka podcast. The 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 if I'm a trader, if I'm a really serious trader, the way dYdX looks and the way it works, I think it's amazing. And this is, as a trader, right? I think it makes life quite easy from that angle. So I really like the overall experience that you have with dYdX. Of course there has been that hiccup of, right, getting funds to layer 2 for newer people, right? But if you're already in DeFi, I think it's not that big of a deal. I also really like, and I have seen progress with, like, let's say Uniswap and the top leaders in the space, 1inch, Sushi Swap, all whatever these guys are doing. I think if you look at how their UX has slowly started to transform, and more than UX, their UI has slowly started to transform into something that looks much more beautiful than where they were earlier, which was like much more practical only thing. I think they've done things quite well. Also, the newer protocols that are coming up, um,
Yeah,
could be like small cap perpetual exchanges. I don't want to take names just because it's kind of
yeah,
also quite risky with these newer exchanges,
true.
but much smaller perpetual exchanges that are popping up right now. I think they have great experience. Also, surprisingly, with what happened with Arbitrum ka airdrop and the printer websites, I don't know if you've
Yeah,
explored those, right?
yeah,
um, I think वो printer websites का भी UI now is much more modern, and it feels more homely. On the back end of things, yeah, it can be a complete scam, right? And as you mentioned, tokenomics में जैसे like a buy tax of 5%, which is fine because they are like, these are projects that live for like 5 days, right? They die after that, so the
yeah,
person wants to make money, fine. But then a sell tax of 95%, say we've come down to, I guess also in, maybe there are ethics being built probably. So 5%
yeah,
buy sell taxes, stuff like that. But I have friends, आपने भी mention किया, even you do as well, who've gotten into that one project where they connected their wallet and it was drained because nothing was transparent, or the tokenomics were like so ponzi that,
yeah,
if but they were presented in such a non ponzi way, and a very professional way. We are trying, I guess, with how information is circulating on Twitter and how information is circulating on YouTube, we're getting away
yeah,
from that. At least this is something, but and this is a transition I've noticed in the last, I think, 6 7 8 months. And now I don't know, maybe it has to do with Twitter getting better at not recommending bot accounts or hiding a lot of those replies into a common show more box. But I think I've seen that go down. I've also seen a lot of people who used to send questions, because that count used to be pretty high, like some meme token shit coins, shit projects, or I got scammed bro, what should I do now. That quantity has gone down quite a bit in the last 6 7 months. So I really like that fact as well. So I think we are, as an industry, we are definitely on the right path.
We are maturing by as time passes.
A trial by fire. If
I think that's the wallet that you were talking about, right? The Fire wallet.
no, so I'm talking about like trial by fire, as in like you
Oh
get
yeah.
scammed like 10 times and
Oh
then you
yeah. Oh
learn.
yeah.
That fire, not the wallet
Got it. Got
extension
it.
fire.
Uh, Following up with that, nothing discussed on this podcast is a financial advice. Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. So, talking about risk, how do you approach risk management and portfolio diversification in the DeFi space? And I would love if you could recommend our listeners with some tools that help you, diversify your portfolio and manage your risk.
Yeah, of course. I think, and so I do get a lot of slack for this, especially from like kind of degen DeFi people. Is I do believe fiat is important because you have to live your life, and the way the world is today, without fiat, a lot of things don't work. So I think having some fiat is great. And but when it, so you should have it, you should also look at kind of diversifying in other forms of investments, or investment products, be it real estate, be it stocks, mutual funds, whatever. And then comes your crypto portfolio, where I have at least seen this a structure perform really well for me, at least, is where I have majority kind of long term holdings, pretty safe stuff, right? And like a big chunk to Bitcoin. Again, not financial advice, guys. Do your own research before taking such calls. But just like these huge blue chip market caps, and within that, I think kind of BTC takes the play. Um, and of course, Ethereum at this point, a lot of people are looking at Ethereum as something that can be used really well, if
Yeah.
you're building on Ethereum, not just as an investment product, I think. But then there are those trading portfolios. So maybe 10% of your funds go into a trading portfolio. You trade with only 10%, 10 to 15% cash at any time, be it bull market, bear market. If it's bear market, probably 25% cash because you get more opportunities. Rest depends. If you want to hold, you hold. Ideally, book profits wherever you can. I think that's also a great risk management strategy, in my opinion. Book profits ASAP. A lot of people end up mooning for that, like, if I don't get 100x, and they're already, they're whatever their bag was, it has done a 50x, but they're waiting for that 100x. Come on, 50x usually, it, if you look at traditional markets, it probably takes like 100 years to
True.
do
True.
that,
True.
right? So book profits, but then within your trading portfolio profits, or your kind of that, uh, based on whatever you invest, narratives or whatever that is, take out profits, put some into your long term holdings, put some into your fiat, put some into stocks, put some mutual funds, put some into having a party with your family. I think that's extremely
Yeah.
important as well. Like, what is the point of degenning and spending 24 hours in front of a screen? We are not going to use the money that we earn to actually better our lives. So that's a big plus, and I think that's a very straightforward allocation strategy that allows to kind of keep risk at the minimum. And then I guess part two would be also to reduce risk, is where we talk about tools that you use to research. Because with blockchain, the great thing is it's transparent.
Yeah.
We might not know who the wallet belongs to, but we know that wallet is doing something, and I think that's something that we don't have with traditional systems. So tools and getting more data before doing certain actions or before taking certain decisions, I think also allows us to bring our risk down, because we know what can go wrong potentially at that point. Like, the more data we gather, we also get to know the stuff that we probably don't know, right?
True.
So I think that's important. And specific tools, I think any kind of blockchain research platforms, Nansen is a big one that I've now recently started to share quite a lot of, and a lot of people actually like it because it provides great data. Dune has been one of the staples that I've been using for now, since it's out. uh, and every single day we see these like more dashboards pop up that are very very helpful, right? Then apart from these, there are your specific blockchain based explorers, right?
Yeah,
For Ethereum, for Bitcoin, I think, if not Dune, if not Nansen, because Nansen is paid, right? From free aspect of things, I think Dune does the job pretty well. But other tools like DeFi Llama, blockchain explorers, if we start looking into projects through these, start looking at what the TVL is, how people are behaving inside the project, like on chain, what are the wallet activities that we can find. There are other tools available as well that can allow you to look at a very specific wallet, see all transactions that have kind of conspired to get that wallet to the state where it is today, in a graphical format. Metasleuth is the one that I'm talking about.
yeah,
Bubble maps is another one. I think that's pretty powerful if you want to see the top holders and what top holders have been doing in a specific project. Using these, I think, is extremely powerful, and these are free and these are very easy to understand. um, and they can allow us to get to a point where we have, if not the same information, but a very very high level of or rather high level data into whatever we are looking at, which usually would have been accessible to only people with a lot of money or a lot of means.
understood. I mean, those are great tools, and I'm pretty sure all the listeners would really enjoy using them and doing their research. Talking about DeFi, like I want to understand, like right now, like we see like a lot of banks in US have been going down, right? What do you think? How will DeFi be a part of, like, how will it disrupt the traditional financial systems in the coming future, if it will? What's your take on that? Like, how is that gonna happen?
Yeah, I think so. Here is where I also differ in my opinion to a lot of other people who are completely into DeFi. Is I don't think DeFi will be allowed to disrupt traditional finance. DeFi will be taken. I think DeFi will be taken up by traditional finance as a means to secure data, to make sure that things are not tampered with, which I think is extremely important. But the level of transparency that DeFi has, I'm not sure traditional finance people want that kind of transparency, and that's also the problem
Yeah,
with traditional finance is, um, you don't know there's a hole in the ship unless the people or the captain actually comes and announces there's a hole in the ship. And even then, with traditional finance, it's like maybe there is or maybe there isn't. You don't know how big of a hole there is in your ship, even after the captain has announced it, right? So you don't know when to jump off. And with DeFi, I think the level of transparency that DeFi brings from day one,
yeah,
minus of course the problem with centralized DeFi, a lot of whale wallets. But then we are looking at a lot of fair launches and stuff like that taking place in DeFi, which I think is great, because that is, those things by the way might not pump as much. uh, and the reason is pretty simple, because there is not a lot of manipulative power at play
yeah.
with fair launches. But that's what we want, and if that model is picked up into traditional finance, I think that can be really really powerful. But then again, are they going to allow it? I'm not sure. So I think this has to be a parallel, or this will probably end up being a parallel economy, or a kind of a parallel circle, not even economy, actually a parallel circle of people who believe in DeFi. They'll end up dealing a lot more in DeFi than they do in traditional finance, I think. Um, yeah, kind of my viewpoint on
Makes
that
sense.
part.
I mean, as DeFi matures, I think a lot of things gonna be less risky.
Yeah,
Definitely, there's a lot of risk even now, but I think right now we are at a very early stages of
yeah,
DeFi. Right, it's not been even like 5-10 years, if I'm not wrong, like proper DeFi. So I think
yeah,
we still need to go through a lot of complex problems that we keep on
yeah,
facing. Now, talking about like content creation, I'm pretty sure content creation is very time consuming, right? And most of your time might be going at researching, recording, curating, distributing, and all of that. So what are the few challenges that you face while educating people about DeFi in India? Like, I'm not talking just about crypto, invest here, invest there, or probably research here, research there, but I'm talking about the pure DeFi stuff, right? Like apart from like centralized exchanges, everything else that you educate people. What are the challenges you face there? Like how is the setup here in India?
Yeah, I think, by the way, you'll probably end up agreeing with a lot of this, because I know you've experienced it for yourself as well. Is uh, The fact is, a lot of people don't really want education at this point. What has gotten people attracted kind of into the ecosystem is, how do I make more money, as opposed to how do I learn more and get better, so maybe in turn I can make more money. Because they this end up skipping the step, kind of the first step. And that's been a big challenge as a content creator, because when you end up making content, and by the way, it's true, it's like, if not 20 hours, at least 18 hours a day of looking at what's happening in the space, talking to someone or the other about what's happening in the space, and trying to look at things. After you do all that, you create a piece of content that packs all of the stuff that you've learned, and you don't get any views because people don't want that. So I think
Yeah,
the big problem that content creators right now, especially in India, they face is, what other than trading content would work. If you talk about smart contracts, it doesn't perform well. If you talk about any other thing than making money, it doesn't work well, right? So how do you convert, or how do you package things so that people get what they want, at the same time they learn what you want them to learn? I think that's the challenge that a lot of content creators are facing, and good ones especially, because they want to push for education. We've had, like, Hitesh Malviya, had conversation with him. He's kind of struggling with figuring out how to package that well as well. Like, how does he package education well so that it's perceived well? Because what's the point of making content if nobody actually then sees it, right? Um, so I think that's a big challenge. Of course, there are certain key themes that we've seen, that do allow us to do that a little bit better. So I'm learning every single day, and
yeah,
rather, in fact, every single video that I put out, every single thread that I put out is more like an experiment. Try something new, try something different, at least these days, and then see what works and what people want, and how do I communicate the education aspect of things. Great example would be on chain. If I make a video on chain analysis, it won't perform well. But if I make a video on, let's track some whales, that performs well. The content inside is exactly the same
yeah,
that I'd have done for an on-chain analysis video, like
yeah.
100% the same. So stuff, I think we need, as content creators, we need to learn that.
Uh, Totally agree with that. I mean, talking about like DeFi, like pure DeFi stuff has not been working well for you. That's what I understand. Apart from like on-chain analysis with a very catchy title works well for you. So definitely there are very common misconceptions about DeFi in India, and I wanted to understand how can we work together as a community and address this misconceptions.
I I think this is a very difficult question to answer. I think over it, but I'm not sure if I have like a complete answer to this one. But I think ideally, the bear market phase really allows to push for education, because you don't uh, you see what conversations are going on in the comments, in on and as well as on Twitter. You see that drastic change as compared to a bull market. So I think bear market is really great for that part of things. I think this podcast, for example, is a great step in the right direction, I feel. Although the addressable market might be small today, but as more people get into it, these are the or rather these pieces of content are the ones that are going to push them kind of to learn a little bit more about what DeFi is. And then and also learn about, there are other ways to make money in DeFi, which is like, you can actually work in the space, you can build things, of course, and you can keep trading as well. Nobody's asking people to stop trading. But I think content like this. Also, content creators, by the way, they've started to take a stand, right? So and come together, do more live streams with like 4 5 content creators. I think that's a good good way to get a lot of traction for the right kind of content. So I think that's something that will probably do well in the long term, for at least for the Indian ecosystem.
Makes sense. I'm pretty sure a lot of beginners would be watching this podcast, and from them, I want to ask you, like, what is the one single advice that you want to give out to someone who's just starting out their journey in DeFi?
So I used to say read the Bitcoin white paper, but I'll say watch a video of one of the greater channels like Coin Bureau or one of these guys. Like I really like the Whiteboard Crypto guy.
Yeah.
um, Explain the Bitcoin white paper first, then read the Bitcoin white paper, because I got a lot of comments saying I didn't understand the technical part of things. So watch the video, then read that. I think that's a great in to understanding what this whole industry is about, why people, why outsiders feel that crypto people are crazy. um, right? And also it will probably allow you to get accustomed to the speed, because crypto field I think is extremely fast, and understanding that will allow us to be fast as well, I think, just to adapt a little bit better. Then go into learning about what smart contracts are, what wallets are. The basic stuff I think is extremely important before you make your first trade. Is extremely important, because one wrong letter in an address, a wrong copy, wrong paste, by the way, a lot of malware that does that, right? um, and you're done. Like, probably you're not going to come back as a beginner. If I had gotten scammed in my first couple of months, I probably, that would have just simply confirmed my existing bias that crypto probably is a scam, right? So that's where I think spend a month. That's all I ask for, just 1 month, on understanding what everything is, and watching a lot of videos. I think go crazy on content, but don't do anything. Don't take the first step for probably a month, I'll say. Then go slow,
Got
one
it.
month on.
Uh, you said that crypto, the whole DeFi crypto space is really fast paced, right? There are a lot of things happening every now and then. And you also spoke about few YouTube channels. Now, as a content creator, as an investor, trader, marketer, what are the few tools, websites, or platforms that you keep a track on? Like, obviously, Twitter is one. But apart from Twitter, what are those things that you keep a track on to stay up to date with what is happening in the crypto and DeFi space?
Yeah, I think a watch list usually grows. This is something that we recently had a conversation about, because I don't use Twitter lists,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Which is probably like a very unproductive way of working on Twitter. A lot of people do, and they swear by lists, because it just allows you to kind of build a better flow or rather better knowledge inflow.
Yeah.
And so Twitter lists, I think, is of course, without said. Telegram is another one, but on Telegram I have that select few channels that I've been following for now many years, and whenever there's an update, I keep an eye on those. I also tend to follow a lot of these sleuths and people who are looking into forensics parts of things in crypto. I think that provides a lot of data that probably other content creators don't or can't. And those guys, they aren't going to start a YouTube channel. There's no way they'll start a YouTube channel, right? So and a lot of these people, they just operate on Telegram as well. So you kind of just talk to a few friends and you get to know about certain Telegram channels. So I think Telegram is huge in that aspect of things. There are a lot of news based Telegram channels as well, couple
Could you
of big
name a few?
names.
Could you
Yeah,
name a
of
few
course.
so that the listeners could actually?
Yeah, I want to get this right. So two I can tell you without opening my Telegram is Unfolded and Unfolded DeFi. Unfolded DeFi is pretty new. Then the forensics guy that I religiously follow is Officer's Notes. Officer underscore CIA is his Telegram. I also follow Lobster Daily. lobsters underscore daily, which is a news kind of daily summary of whatever important has happened. But they tend to focus a little bit more around the development side of things and fundraising side of things, as opposed to what new thing happened. DeFi Llama roundup I think is great
Yeah.
as well. I also follow the usual, like Into the Block, Crypto Quant I think is one. They've just put in one on-chain analysis ka chart as well. Then I also keep an eye on other content creators and their Telegram channels, what they are sharing, what they're talking about. That also, by the way, allows me to build my content a little bit better, because I get to see if there's a common trend that's going on for the day, and I'm not the first one. At least in my circle, posting the video, I'll get an idea on what topics I could talk about. There is another one which is pretty interesting, which is ICO underscore analytic, which
Okay.
is a pretty cool Telegram channel. They share a lot of metrics, a lot of data, a lot of more or less like bar charts around how different protocols are doing, how different chains are doing, and they keep sharing a lot of these cool updates. So I think that's a big one as well. I think more or less this is kind of like this makes for my top
Got it.
page of Telegram news. Whale alert, by the way, yeah, that's a
Oh yeah.
that's a big one as well. Lately their bot has been causing issues. I don't know. They've had like copy transactions. I don't know what's going on with that.
Okay. I mean, like for traders, whale alerts is something that they'll love to have.
Yeah.
Uh, no, like definitely when you talk about the Indian ecosystem, when Paytm came into the picture, a lot of people were like, क्या सब्जी वाला पेटीएम यूज करेगा. But now now I think it's almost been like 8 9 or probably 10 years, but now we could see sabji wala sub log, a lot of
Yeah.
people who uh, are at the streets asking for money. Probably you could call them as vendors or beggars or whoever they are. Even they have a QR code, right? Paytm, along with the help of demonetization, along with a very intuitive, simple UI, was able to bridge the gap between the general cash finance to the digital finance. Wanted to ask you, like, what do you think is the major barrier for DeFi to get that mass adoption? Like, mass, I'm pretty sure it's very difficult to get the mass adoption like UPI did, because obviously for regulatory
Yeah.
reasons. But what do you think what would be that one thing which could blast the mass adoption thing?
Yeah, I think so. We can't minus the regulatory landscape, I think, from this whole conversation, right? Because I think that's the biggest barrier holding the mass adoption away. And to be very specific, it's like in India, for it's fiat on and off ramp. It's difficult, and I also understand what the regulators point is. I might not agree with some of those, but I do understand what they are trying to say from a traditional side of things. But I think there's definitely more transparency if certain systems were tied into this. Again, probably a lot of slack for this is, I think CBDC can help promote blockchain, not crypto, not DeFi. CBDC technically is anti-crypto, right? But when it comes to blockchain and people, because right now you talk to somebody on the street, they might have heard about Bitcoin. Probably they have heard about one of the meme coins or shit coins like Dogecoin, Shiba, or something like that. They still have no idea what blockchain is, right? And a lot of people, it's like a lot of people still understand, or at least they've heard about crypto, but they don't know what blockchain is. So I think CBDC can help a little bit to push that blockchain narrative. Once that blockchain narrative is being pushed, see, nobody likes the traditional system, and we know that it's across different countries. It's not just a very specific country I'm talking about right now. As more people learn about blockchain, as more people get exposed to blockchain, as more people uh, build on blockchain, even if for a completely centralized government entity, they'll they'll have a deeper understanding of what crypto is all about. So I'm kind of not even playing devil's advocate. I'm saying that might be good for adoption. Minus, of course, if the regulation is in place, that will allow people to get on. Because when we talk about Paytm and QR codes, there is this guy, right, the chai wala guy in Bangalore, I think, जो Dogecoin में payment लेता है और Bitcoin
Yeah,
में,
yeah.
I think, right?
I
So
I
his picture is circulated.
actually I had been to that place just because I wanted to see if
Awesome.
real में वो लेता है कि नहीं. But it seems it's like
It
a
does.
marketing thing. Yeah, I mean, when I went there, he was not accepting it. So I think it
Okay.
was just a marketing play.
Got it. But yeah, maybe then that's the problem. Abhi, I you probably can guess why he didn't take it, because उसको INR में convert करने का कोई तरीका नहीं है उसके पास, like an efficient way to do that, right? So I think that's a big problem. So as that gets sorted, I think we can have that mass adoption, where of course other things can come into play. And by the way, recently, this whole Balaji thing
Yeah,
blew
yeah,
up, right?
yeah.
इसमें I think Bankless के साथ he did a podcast, if I'm not wrong. I was talking in that podcast. The pandemic actually probably brought the remote culture adoption. Whatever would have happened in a decade happened in like those 2 months when it comes to remote work culture, right?
True.
So we don't know what kind of a black swan event can actually push those things. Think if Balaji is right, 90 days probably not really. But if he's right, which probably he is, because if you actually look at the inflation numbers, it is crazy. But if the hyperinflation goes to where people are thinking it will go, and it will definitely not be good for anybody, of course, because people have spent like their lives, and that's all going to go within like a few months, whatever their finances. So I don't want it to happen, but if it happens, that will bring a lot of adoption. I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope it takes us easy 10 years to get that adoption. I don't want it to happen in 6 months. It will destroy a lot of lives. But I think that typical distrust of the traditional finance ecosystem and the way things are managed, and probably also the way a lot of these things are opaque, that's also pushing towards a lot of people getting fed up and moving into crypto and moving into DeFi. So that's a big plus as well, by the way.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure if people are still watching this podcast till here, they would want to know
And
what are
not
the
sleeping.
some what are some exciting DeFi projects or innovations that you are currently tracking. And obviously none of this is financial advice, but yeah, would love if you could point out some projects that you're really excited about, or innovations if not projects.
I've talked about what Matic is doing as a product. To be honest, not a big fan of the way things are managed at Matic and done at Matic, but the vision for the product has, I think, trying to tackle a problem where you make things easier and convenient for people. I think that's a good direction to have. So that's one. I think Cosmos is another one, and by the way, great move, I think, by dYdX side as well. Interoperability finally is going to be extremely important. So that's a big one, or a big player, right, along with Polkadot. But I think both are great. I do know developers favor Cosmos a little bit more than Dot. Then there is Chainlink, which I'm a big fan of, as a product. Not a fan of their business practices, because I think they are a monopoly. I don't like monopolies personally, and we are in a decentralized ecosystem, so monopolies are not good. I really want a few competitors to come up against Chainlink through this bear market, but they've the work that they do, I think, is imperative to the whole ecosystem. So that's a great one. There are other smaller platforms coming up apart from like ZK ka technology, which I think is great for privacy, great for reducing the amount of data that goes online, which probably can also make for greener blockchains, just because of the amount of data that gets sent on is reduced. But smaller projects may, a lot of these projects that are trying to solve real world problems are starting to now come up, and usually that's what happens in a bear market, right? Insurance related product, one of the ones that we were talking about
Yeah,
in that call, I think that's a good direction. That wasn't perfect, right? We talked
yeah,
about the problems with possible problems, but I think on chain insurance and these kind of concepts are pretty neat, and they are going to allow us to have that parallel economy that I was talking about, because then you don't have to get out of the ecosystem. And I think again Balaji mentioned it as well. Balaji or somebody, like you find like 100 or 150 people around you who accept crypto for everything. So kind of that your own barter economy between friends, right?
Yeah.
So nothing illegal in that, right? You exchange your phone with a friend, and at least you used to. Now probably not. But you we do that, right? So I think that kind of economy that's being built at a scale, or that kind of those kind of projects that are being built at a scale, they are great. I do also see that fractional, or rather complete ownership of real estate through NFTs as an interesting play. I think NFTs have a lot of time to grow. Right now big chunk is JPGs, but gaming and all of that ecosystem is growing pretty fast as well. So also I have my eye on that real estate aspect of NFT as well as the gaming NFT space.
Awesome, awesome. Uh, I mean, I just hope the whole DeFi space grows the way it is growing and keeps on innovating, so that one day we could reach there where we want to be. So finally, would love if you could tell our listeners where to find you, where to find your content. If they already don't know you, where can they follow your journey in DeFi investing and trading space?
Yeah, I'm practically available across platforms: Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Telegram. Please don't search on Telegram. Use a link from my YouTube videos. If you want to talk to me, or you have some questions, probably you are an inspiring DeFi marketer. By the way, you can pose your questions to Ivan as well for that. Uh, you can send in a DM at Twitter. I think that's the best place to reach out to, or LinkedIn. Either one of these work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shivam, for coming on this podcast. Yeah, and I hope we do more of this really soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me. Really enjoyed it.